Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and we're coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, and we are in attendance at the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. And speaking of which, you're somewhat familiar with that. Matt Elliott, president of Bank of America. You have an idea of what's going on here.
I do. I was fortunate enough to be the chair last year, and I'm the chair of the chamber this year. So I got a ringside seat last year, and it's really incredible what the chamber team does to deliver this remarkable event.
Well, and when you're on top of something like you're the chair of it, it's a lot of work, but it's not as much work as you could be doing because they do a vast majority of it.
Here's a fact that I didn't know until last year. There are alumni of the Detroit Regional Chamber that give up a week of vacation just to come back and work this event. It's
Isn't
that special
wild?
to them.
Well, it's special to everybody.
Yes, it is.
Too. And it's interesting because you were one of the first years of transition between the Musser ownership and the new company. And it was, in my mind, pretty seamless.
I've had a chance to meet David and the rest of the leadership team
He's
here.
Great. We had him on earlier.
They are fantastic, and they've made investments in this because they recognize the Grand Hotel for the jewel and the gem that it is nationally, not just to us in Michigan. And it's great to have that asset in the right hands. Yeah. And I'm sure the Musser family thought very carefully about who they were going to transition it to.
Well, that was a big part of it because I knew Dan for many years, and it was like selling the house you raised your kids in, and you want to make sure it's not going to some rock band.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And they've done a great job.
Yeah, they have. Well, listen, speaking of Bank of America, you guys do a lot to drive the economy in Detroit. Mm-hmm. You also do a lot for equity. Mm-hmm. Fill us in a little bit on some of the efforts.
Yeah. So first of all, driving sustainability and driving equity are key to our business strategy, because we know that those are two things that are important for long-term sustainable success, in addition to being the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So there are four main pillars to our strategy around economic mobility and equity. One of them is health. Health is wealth in a lot of cases. Another one is support for small business. That drives that's the engine of growth. We all know that, right? Another one is workforce development. We need more and more workers because frankly, right now, we have more open positions than we have people ready to fill them. And then the last one is affordable housing. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done around affordable housing. We have a program, Chris, that allows a first-time home buyer in a low to moderate income census tract to responsibly get in a house with zero money down. We use a grant product for both the down payment and closing costs to help someone get in a house sustainably and responsibly. I'm really proud of that.
That's a really interesting concept because they want the housing. They're probably paying what they would in payments in rent, but they're building equity.
The hurdle is almost always the down payment and the closing costs, and in the vast majority of cases, the monthly payment is lower than the rent payment.
All right. So this year, the theme is, bridging the future together, right?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about that. What does that bring to mind?
Well, the whole idea behind this is a takeoff a little bit of last year's theme, which was the power of and.
Yeah.
And this idea is...
It was great, by the way.
Thank you.
I still have a pin at home.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually had a chance to talk about it a little bit today in my Mackinac moment. But the point is that we all know that collaboration and what Suzanne is calling radical collaboration is the way you solve problems. Mm-hmm. If you sit and say either or, right, wrong, win, lose, that doesn't get anything done. And we have really big challenges and tremendous opportunities in front of us as a state. And so the idea is let's get together and get at some of these big challenges like workforce readiness, like education, et cetera.
Yeah. So any notable stories about successes in that area?
Well, I listed a couple today that were examples of and thinking and also bridging together. So in the last, we've talked a lot about the fact that as a state, we need to make sure that we preserve our industrial base.
Yeah.
And we also need to start developing an innovation economy. And so in the last year, we've crossed the $15 billion mark and 14,000 new jobs for wins of a new industrial projects. And at the same time, we were named the number one developing ecosystem for startups in the world. All right.
Oh,
yeah. So, and this is before we open Michigan Central, before the U of M Collaboration Center opens up. So we've got a lot of momentum in both areas. That's a great example of bridging the future together.
So when you look at it, what are the biggest challenges? I mean, we do our Michigan Future Business Index every 6 months. It's in the field right now.
Yep.
And, we find a consistency. Talent has been number one for about 4.5 years.
Yep. And it's going to be. And the reason why, frankly, is because our education system is not working. So here are a few stats that, frankly, you won't like. One is we are the number 42 state in the union when it comes to educational output, when it comes to educational proficiency. Number 42. That's not going to win. We also don't have enough accountability inside the system. So here's a great example of that. The legislature and the governor approved $240 million to be spent through the school system, the state school system, to improve efficiency and get more dollars to the kids in the classroom. Guess how much money's been spent so far year to date? Not a penny. There's no accountability. So we need some changes there. Business Leaders for Michigan and the Detroit Chamber are both, putting forward ideas, and so has Launch Michigan. There are ways that we can drive this forward, but we got to come together to make it happen.
Partner, I've got a million things to say about it. I wish we had 2 hours. Matt Elliott, it's always good to see you.
Great to be
President of Bank of America and last year's chair of this whole thing, which is the policy conference up at Mackinac, put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm Chris Holman. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network.